We still have our guest in the studio this morning, Dr. Tim Theuri, President of the Kenya Dental Association, and Robert Alai, the MCA for Kileleshwa Ward. In the previous hour, we've talked about the dangers of the water that we are consuming in Nairobi. A lot of the water in Nairobi is untreated. And in fact, even Andrew Franklin is saying, even the water that's coming, that's been supplied supposedly by the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, by the time it gets to the tap, because of maybe some contamination somewhere along the pipeline, it also gets contaminated. So there's an issue of just the entire overall quality of the water that you are consuming.
Yes, and it's not only the cities, you know. If you go to the reports I read about the village areas, it's like the fertilizer you use on the farm. Then it rains, then it goes to the rivers. Now, if you use calcium, then you have the concentration of the calcium, the nitrates, you know. So it's a big
It's
issue.
a big issue.
Whatever we do on the ground, it will affect our health at some point. You know, how we dispose the waste, how we also farm, it's going to affect the whole ecosystem. The kind of chemicals we use on our farms, it's come back to our systems. Yes, so I think we need to be very much aware on how to protect nature.
So this is a conversation, and the work that we are giving you, Robert, is you escalate this conversation. Let it go all the way to Ali Sohome, the CS for water, sanitation and irrigation. At policy level, it trickles down. Let it go to all those bodies that are in charge of regulating and oversighting water services and issues. This includes the Water Resource Authority, the boards, the service providers that are owned by the counties. And you can work with the Nairobi MPs to raise the issue in the National Assembly and the Nairobi Senator to raise the issue in the Senate, as you raise your issues in the county assembly as well.
Yes.
Several issues then, we continue now. Let's focus into the work of the Nairobi City County Government. The County Assembly of Nairobi is a strong component of the Nairobi City County Government. We've talked about water. It goes into sanitation as well. What's the population of Nairobi residents that don't actually have access to sanitation services, to proper toilets? Basic as that. What's the population of Nairobi residents that do not have proper access to health services? Health is devolved, it's right in your docket. What's the population of Nairobi children who don't have access to early childhood education? Or they have to actually go to private facilities to pay for ECD. How many public ECD facilities do we have in the city? Roads, within the county that everybody keeps complaining about all the time. Waste management, garbage collection, and such other issues. And then, of course, when it comes to business, one of the big promises by the current governor of Nairobi when he was campaigning, Johnson Arthur Sakaja, was about harmonization of what? The business permits. So it's also the Kenya Kwanza campaign manifesto.
Yeah.
How far are we, because we're coming into a new year, to renewing business permits in a harmonized manner and harmonized way? And what's the role of the county assembly on this? So these are issues that we ought to start discussing and raising and pushing them to you as our members of the county assembly so that we get them done. City.
You know, Eric, if you look at manifestos and the declarations of politicians, they're just that. Manifestos and declarations of politicians. Why do I say this? I say this because there's something that I have seen. It was a growing trend with many of these incoming governors. They want to audit. Some take the audit to stadia, so that people can understand. In theory, it's a really very good thing. Because even when the good presidential doctor who's on my immediate left here talks about the Committee of Health of Parliament engaging with health economists, good thinking. Why am I saying this? I am saying, do we really have a clear account of what it is that the monies that we actually have and we expend in all this, do we have an idea of what they actually do? Because we keep talking of it not being enough. Counties always have issues with health because it's a devolved function and either doctors are going on strike or something is happening. And we're being told there's not enough money. Okay, fine. Now, the money you receive, what do you do with it? Now, the health economists and people who understand costing would be able to give us a very clear indication of what the money can do. So this discussion will always be cyclical. It will always go around in circles because we know exactly what should be done. But is there leadership that is ready to bite the bullet? The reason why cartels exist is because they know full well that their impunity will be rewarded and not negatively. And we have a system where cartels don't exist, they grow. It's a growth industry. Why? Because they know nothing will happen. Now, unless the politicians are willing, because politicians may not like this, but it is true. When you're elected, people depend on you. They expect you to be that bulwark. They expect you to be that person who stands between them and all these problems that they hear. But we have politicians in this country, in the National Assembly, who are part and parcel of this rot. You think you've got a new group of politicians who will be different. Far from it. It's the same thing. So, is there a solution? Can we think of a way of ensuring that the things that need getting done can actually be done with the resources that we have? Because this story of it never being enough, and that every time I hear of the amount, man, they are colossal amounts. My brain can't even compute them. And you're being told this is not enough.
I think, like I said, we must like ourselves as a people. We must just like ourselves as a people. Because, politics is the art of the possible. Yeah. And the possibilities that are presented to us during the campaign are at times they're lofty, very appealing, very endearing. Tutaambia nyinyi amunijui hizi cartels tutamaliza zote. And I'm a merchant of hope as a doctor, yeah? And a different kind of hope. I will give to you the possibilities of modern day medicine, right? But what is presented on the other side of politics is I will give you the possibility of what your life can be, but I'll factor in how I will get something out of it. And the moment we uplift a whole generation out of poverty, and China has done it in less than 2 generations, yeah, then there are, I think, I don't know whether the politicians are afraid that they may no longer be relevant, but if a whole generation is lifted out of poverty or they see their lives improve, yeah, for sure they will know Robert was responsible for this, then I must keep Robert around. And I think if we change our mentality to be that, then our lives will improve. When it comes to health, as City is saying here, at county level, so one, we saw a presser where our governor said they don't want the accounts looked into. What does that tell us? Yeah, what does that tell us? In health, there are components that go into health. We have human resource for health. We have the facilities. We have the components that go into treating patients, and then of course we have the patients themselves. So in Kenya we have 48 ways of doing health, and that is not tenable. We must start to centralize some of these functions so that we improve efficiency. And one of the functions is human resource. We must begin to accept that whereas health is a devolved function, at times we want to say it's a shared function. There are things that we got right because now there are far-flung counties that wouldn't have had access to doctors and specialists. The medical leasing scheme, medical equipment leasing scheme came, and some of these counties have had access to CT scans, to MRI machines, and that is a good thing, right? But by and large, we are seeing gaps that now must begin to get addressed. Human resource, do we centralize this? Training of doctors, do we centralize this? And I think the answer is yes. A health service commission must be a conversation we begin to have as a people and with governors and also at county level, because I think one of the biggest components of the budget for health is salaries. And I don't know why governors fight for health to remain down. Let me not say down, but with them. Yet there's just a lot of recurrent.
All they're doing is managing people.
They're just managing people. So we centralize human resource, its deployment, its allocation. What does Nairobi County need? Does it need more public health specialists? Does it need more doctors who are dealing with non-communicable diseases, or doctors who are specialists in sanitation matters. What does Mandera County need? Does it need more cancer specialists? Because right now, whereas that data is somewhere, no one is appropriating it well so that they are able to allocate doctors where they're supposed to go. We don't have a horizontal movement of doctors. You have to resign from one county, get to the next, even if there is a need. Yeah. So that's a conversation we must begin to have. Like I said, the numbers I gave for dentists, we have 800 who have been retained to practice this year. Out of that number, about 400 in public service. So that means we have less than 10 dentists per county.
How would the Medical Service Commission help?
It would help in sorting out training issues or training needs, saying that you want to apply to become a neurosurgeon. The data we have is we may not necessarily need neurosurgeons as of now. Would you consider doing something else? Or say that the country needs 10 neurosurgeons, apply. So the first 10 who qualify, go ahead and train. 2, allocation of this resource. Where do we deploy doctors? All right, because right now you will find that if Robert is my chief officer or the CC for Nairobi County, a lot of nepotism happens. Yeah, because you'll find that if it's in Murang'a County, predominantly it will be Kikuyu doctors. If it's in Nyamira, then the same case applies. Whereas the distribution of doctors is not as per our ethnic inclinations. So those things will start to go down. You'll get the right people for the right job. And again, like I said, for that to happen, we must first start by liking ourselves a little more. Why is it that for me to come here from where I came, I had to use the expressway? That's a cost, yeah. Whereas just planning myself and knowing that the bus will leave at this particular time and it will pass there at this particular moment, and I can plan my day, So there's a lot of wastage that happens when we don't plan our cities, when you don't plan our lives in the future, like Robert here has been saying. Yeah.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. At the end of the day, we're looking at a situation whereby, unfortunately, it looks as though it's got to be push comes to shove. How bad does it need to get before, number one, you either realize that all of this is a moral issue? That the reason why there's not, if we go down to the nitty gritty, the reason why we don't have water flowing through our taps in Nairobi, the reason why children are getting sick, the reason why these diseases then are becoming more and more prevalent is because somebody at some level doesn't do their job, or many people take what not ought to go to them. How bad does it need to get? Because unfortunately, it is when you get to the bottom, when there's nothing left to scratch at, is when you realize, okay, guys, it's time for us to do something about this. But so long as people are enjoying,
Salaries.
so long as you can still survive on a daily basis, nobody's going to do anything about it. We can sit here and preach until we're blue in the face. And for some people, that might be a difficult feat.
No,
but
I'm very happy
if,
that
it doesn't happen, then look.
I'm very happy that the new government is seeing the need for the digital economy, and now that's where we're going to move into data decision making, data-driven decision making, because there's a very big challenge of us just doing things because you're supposed to, even in health, where he's talking about, you find President Uhuru was building these health centers, these health centers in the various wards, and I don't know what if it was driven by any data or just that they didn't have a health center, then built one.
It was driven by data.
So
Studies had been done. In fact, we had the good doctor who was in charge of it.
Dr. Luga.
He said he went to the Afia archives and those things were there. He didn't create it.
No, so you see, you build a health center, but for what? Like in my area, I told him that the one which was built in Mountain View, why don't you make it for offering trauma services? Yeah, you're handling the people who are falling down because of motorbike, because that area is full of motorbikes. Then you have people are treating the basic illnesses, the malaria, the common problems, the kids and maternal health care. But now we force everybody who is looking for X-ray to go to Kenyatta. Yeah. So why don't we have also these special services? The problem now is that if you check on the health data, you'll see that there's a very big spike in pneumonia-related deaths. Why? Because we are riding without proper protection.
And isn't that the multisectoral
So
approach
why
that Dr. is talking about here?
Yes.
That when there's policy being implemented at a county level, at whatever level, that all of the people in the chain, because you can't just think that it suits sitting in an office coming up with a policy without thinking who it is going to affect. Now, looking at who it's going to affect, then you need to then bring in the stakeholders who will deal with that with those effects later. You're bringing in the medical fraternity. You're bringing in people who unfortunately will deal with these accidents or health issues when they occur. These are the people who can now advise upon this policy and what needs to happen, and then insist that it is implemented. Because so long as people are alive, they will get sick, there will be trauma, there will be accidents. So why is it I don't know.
You seem so frustrated.
When before getting into the political leadership, I was being told that the government always starts things because of two things. Any project or anything you see the government initiate, they want to steal election or they want to steal money. So if you see a road being built, unasema nani anakula hiyo? Ami wanataka kushinda kura ya mwaka gani? So if we get back to now doing things because we are supposed to do them right, then a lot is going to change in this country. And this is where, the civil society, the media, and the academia also comes in and help us to stay the course. But we also wish that the political leadership will not be so threatened by the involvement of the public into the affairs, because sometimes people don't want you to ask questions because uta realize kuna mtu amekula ama kuna mtu na cut corners not to provide better services. That is one major challenge in this city, in this country, and I hope that it's going to change with the current leadership.
I hear you talking about leadership, and you'll talk about the president or the governor. That's the executives. You people are representatives of the people, and you have a lot of say. The assembly that you sit in is a budget-making assembly.
Yes.
Just like the National Assembly. You have a lot of oversight rope that you can use. From your number of months now sitting in the county assembly, and looking from where you came from, where you are, very loud and vocal, on the things that are not working.
I wish I remained there. I was very effective there.
Is it not possible that the county assembly can actually do its work? County assembly is individuals.
No, the problem is that we need to change the whole political composition, and I hope that we are going to change it at some point in this country, because we thought that we were going to county assembly to choose our leaders and then to oversight and represent our people. Then we realized that the political parties have a very powerful hold on the county assemblies. When we were campaigning for the Speaker of the Nairobi County, we were being promised that, you guys are going to get in the committees because our CVs were taken, so you're going to be allocated according to your competence, from your profession. But when you came to the county, the principals were actually choosing the committee members and the committees they were supposed to be, or they were supposed to lead from outside. The majority and minority leader was being told, weka nani hapo, weka nani hapo, weka nani hapo.
So this is not
The budget.
individual lobbying.
No.
It is being lauded upon.
Yes. The budget was being brought, the appropriation budget which we passed, the appropriation bill, it was being brought to us. I think 30 minutes.
What?
30 minutes to the debate. And you are not allowed to scan it. Like the majority leader and the minority, when the majority leader and the minority leader have talked, there's nothing you can do because they're very powerful. They can de-whip you and they can stop you from going for any beneficial training. So,
So we talk about state capture. It's actually by
it is
political
serious.
parties.
It is political parties. And, this is, even today, we are saying that, when we check on the CECs, it's very good that the chief officers are sometimes a bit powerful and effective in the management of the affairs of the county. But if the CECs we passed, some of them are so incompetent. This 70% you brought who are incompetent or don't even have papers. Somebody has actually fake papers.
Actual fake.
You just read without even asking any authority. This one doesn't add up. Then you say, maybe the leaders brought them so that they have people who are inferior to them and cannot challenge them in a cabinet, and maybe that's it.
And why can't you ask that question?
You ask that question, you'll be shut down. In that assembly.
Did you ask the question?
Yes. I think I'm the most troublesome in that assembly because I insist on asking some question. Then it's so, tutambia Baba. And when they tell Baba might get angry with
Might
you.
whip you.
Yes. So it's,
So what supersedes the other, Robert?
Yes.
Your desire to see an actual progressive towards permanent change, or the
for me.
fear of whomever this person is.
That's for me. We are 123. Alone, you can't do much. Some people came there because they were doing business with the county. They were nominated. Some people came there because of which families or they came from. They are there. So some are not going to act the way you act, are not going to support you because of various interests. And these various interests, sometimes when you have the majority coming because they don't want to change lives, then you're alone. But you still have to insist. Just in the committees, I would insist, the normal committee settings, you don't have the answer. And so in some committees, I insist that we have to have the answered because these things we are doing here, we have to keep the records. And you find that the clerks are gatekeepers. You want to ask about a piece of land which has been grabbed in your ward. A clerk will, because the statements and the questions and the motions have to go through the table office, the clerks will actually block that and remove the offending part to the person who is the executive. And you say, no. I say, no, but you are in the committee. I say, no, I want to ask it through the plenary because the committee does not have the answer. So I want to do it the plenary. And say, okay, we'll bring the answer, which is just they'll bring you a record and think that you're in the answer. So I say, no, I want to, so that at least it's properly captured and I can also capture it and make sure that this thing goes on record that we asked this and we dealt with this issue. There's a piece of land which was grabbed in South Sea here called Mariakani land. It was taken because Nairobi County owed somebody 1.2 billion lap fund, but the land is worth 20 billion. Every majority leader and the minority leader has been eating from that land. They go to lap fund, you're given 50 million, 20 million, 30 million. You see people who are 5-10 years ago were street boys buying choppers.
CT will ask you in a minute.
Street boys. What's the problem? 25 minutes to 9.